is for living. There has been a lot that's been going on recently with interest rates. And so, in this episode of the podcast, I'm going to try and condense everything that has happened down into a 10 to 15-minute conversation. And within this conversation, I also kind of want to, just give you maybe the good, the bad, and maybe what to expect next based on everything that's happened and where we are right now. Now, if you are following on YouTube, you've probably been able to tune into many of the live sessions that I'm doing currently. I'm doing about 3 to 4 a week. And I'm not going to lie, interest rates have been at the center of the conversation because it obviously impacts mortgage rates and obviously debt, all of the things that we are concerned about here at the podcast. And so, whilst the conversation has been a lengthy one and there's been a lot of information, hopefully, this will encapsulate it into one simple, bite sized episode that you can take from and hopefully use to make a better decision for you moving forward. The reality is that we are likely at the end of interest rate hikes, but what does that all mean? And there are some caveats here as well, which I think are really important to acknowledge because w- within this, I don't want to come off as though we know for certain that we're the end of interest rate hikes, but that is what all of the indicators are telling us at this present time. And I think that's very important for us to know. So, let's start off with the first bit that I want to talk about, which is indeed end of interest rate. What do I mean by this? So, over the past almost 2 years, it's about 18, 19 months roughly, we've seen 14 interest rate hikes from the Bank of England. And this week, the Bank of England increased the base rate again from 5% to 5.25%. Now, the Bank of England base rate is essentially what dictates mortgage rates and the mortgage for things like credit cards and things like personal loans, essentially. So, as the rate goes up, the cost of you paying your mortgage goes up, the cost of you paying your credit card and your personal loans, if you're getting new ones, will also go up as well. And this is all in a bid to beat inflation, to bring inflation down from the 2% to the 2% target from the 7.9% level that it's currently sat. It's almost four times the target, which is unsustainable for us as an economy and certainly as households in the UK. So the Bank of England has been going up to try and counteract that. Now, the good news is it feels as though we're now at the end of the interest rate hikes. And that is because, well, the inflation picture looks a lot better than it did maybe even say 3 to 4 weeks ago. There is now a positive sense that inflation is going to fall quite a bit over the next 3 to 4 quarters. And by Q2 of 2024, we'll hit our 2% target. And with that in mind, it basically means that there won't be any need to really push interest rates any further. However, with that being said, that doesn't mean that we're not going to see any more in the immediate future. Let me explain. So, according to all of the data and all of the information that we're getting out at the moment from the government and the Office of National Statistics, we are anticipating that there is likely going to be another two interest rate rises between now and the end of the year. Now, if you have been following the channel, the fear was that we would see a peak in interest rates of 6%. That is no longer the case. The peak that we are likely to see is going to be about 5.75%. That's what's being forecast. Now, we're currently at 5.25%. So, if the peak is going to be 5.75%, then clearly we still have a 0.5% to go. And here's the consensus: we're going to see a 0.25% interest rate rise in September. And then before the end of the year, we're going to see that final 0.25% interest rate hike to take us to 5.75. Now, this is good news because if you have a mortgage, you may be worried about your mortgage cost and how high mortgage rates are going to go. It isn't going to prevent you from, unfortunately, feeling the pinch of the mortgage rate increases because they are already here. The damage is almost already done. But for many people who will be having their mortgages come up in the next 6 months, a couple of things are likely to happen. The first is either the banks choose to pause and freeze interest rates so we don't see any further interest rate hikes. Or number two, we likely could see a reduction in interest rates as they currently sit. Now, let me be absolutely clear. That doesn't mean that we're going to go back to the environment where interest rates were at 1, 2%. No, those days are long gone. But you may be better off finding a new deal if your fixed rate ends in the next 6 months. And instead of it being 6.4%, you might get it at something like 6 or 5.9. That's what I'm alluding to here. So it's good news, but it's also not good news because in the real world, you're still paying more for your mortgage. And I am a prime example of this. I'm going from a 1.49% mortgage that ends in October, a fixed rate, and I'm going on to a 4.79%, which means I'm going to pay an additional £210 per month. That's where we are with interest rates right now, and that's what's likely to happen with interest rates moving forward. So, what's the good news? The good news here is that for the first time in about a decade and a half, we're going to find ourselves in an environment where interest rates are going to be great for savers. If you've got money set aside, money in a bank, you're for the first time going to have your money possibly beat inflation. Actually, you will beat inflation, assuming all of the forecasts and the predictions are right by the Office of National Statistics, the government, and so on and so forth. Now, I did a video on YouTube last Friday. It was a live stream. I spoke about the kind of accounts that are out there right now, and there are accounts out there right now that will help you beat inflation, particularly if all of the forecasts come true. There's some very attractive rates right now that are interest only, instant access, easy access accounts. You've got some really good ones on notice accounts. You've also got some great ones on fixed term accounts as well. I mean, some of the ones we looked at on Friday were circa 6%. So if you are listening to this on Spotify, this is also going to be a recording on YouTube. Go and check out the video on Friday, the live stream I did on Friday on the channel, where I talk about these accounts will help you beat inflation because they are going to help you beat inflation in the next few months or so, assuming everything goes to plan. And again, I have to be really, really clear on this because this is where the nuance comes in, assuming all the forecasts go to plan. Really, really important. Now, with this all being said, I think it's really, really important. I've said this before so many times, and I'm gonna sound like a broken record here. But clearly, we are all going to have to make some form of adjustment in our finances to acclimatize ourselves to the new reality of the world. And the new reality of the world is one where interest rates are higher than they used to be. And with interest rates being higher than they used to be, it means that the cost of living and what we've been experiencing over the past 18 months, 2 years really is going to be exacerbated now because it's not just in the cost of food and fuel, it's actually in the cost of mortgages, it's in the cost of our rent as well. And so taking charge, taking charge is going to be really, really important right now. I can't stress this enough, and being in a position where you can be as pragmatic as possible in terms of the choices that you're making. Um, I always talk about the fact that we need to learn something now that will help us be better in the future. And this is particularly true right now. This will be a very, very painful place for a lot of people making adjustments. Some people will cope better than others. I'm lucky that I'm going to be able to cope better than a lot of people because I'm prepared for this and I have been prepared for this for a very, very long time. For those people who aren't, though, um, look, don't necessarily be discouraged. Look, it's going to be difficult. I'm not going to lie. It's good. You're going to have to make some tough choices. But the great thing here is that this is an opportunity to be able to, learn a few things and be able to put things in place for next time because this will happen again at some point, and it may not be under the guise of high inflation and therefore higher interest rates. It may be down the road in form of a full-blown recession or a market crash of some kind, but the impact, the way we feel it, is going to be exactly the same. We're going to need to tighten our purse strings. And so I really want to encourage everyone listening and watching on YouTube. I know I've said this so many times before. I know I've said this a million times before, but the choices that we make right now are extremely important and we just need to be prepared. And whilst those choices will be difficult, we do need to camel up and make them and allow us ourselves to kind of learn from the lessons as well so that we're better next time round. Now, I know for many of you who obviously follow the YouTube channel and follow this podcast quite closely, you'll be fully aware of what you need to do next. But I just want to put it out there. If you are listening to this, you may be finding this podcast for the first time, be it on Apple, Spotify, or Google, or any of the good podcast outlets. Might even be here on YouTube if you're watching this video. If you're not sure about what your next steps are, reach out to me, because there are things that we can do together. I do coach people, and there are things that we can do together that may give you a little bit of clarity around helping you structure what you need to do and what decision to make next. I have to stress it. Please, if you're struggling and you're unsure of what to do, please ask. Message me on Instagram or message me over on my email address at hello peterkomolafe.com. That's peterkomolafe.com. Or just literally, leave a message here on YouTube in the comment section down below. This is where we are. It's a silver lining. Yes, it's a difficult silver lining to take, but there is a still silver lining to this. And I just want to, maybe just say one last thing before I finish this off. This isn't going to destroy us. This will make us stronger, make us smarter. And I think we need to kind of relish in the opportunity to learn something here and to put ourselves in a better position than we have been previously. But appreciate you for listening and for watching. If you're watching here on YouTube, I will catch you next Monday.